are able now to route any kind of call with this. You can fly to the moon, back from Mars. It's very easy. Now we want to make our police checkpoints. Guys with alarm, and they said, yeah, you are allowed or not allowed to bus. There is multiple methods for total restriction, because restriction is very important subject for the people who want to pay money. For bosses, it's very important. And also, for some premises, they don't allow the authority to, not for money, it's also kind of
Privilege.
privilege for this kind of organization. For example, I will give you a very nice example about oil and gas fields in middle of the sea. This guy feel bored, so they just said to walk around in the middle of the sea. They feel bored, so they start to call this kind of 6 line 09 blah 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 blah. And you can imagine it's very very bad image about this kind of company. They was paying from their pockets, not from the company pocket. It's not really good about an oil and gas company who in the middle of the sea doing this. Or you can imagine army or police doing this. But it's very important subject to think about. It's not only for the fees, it's also about the image of the company. Also, if I have an insurance company or this kind of voice got talent or blah blah blah, you don't want anyone to call this. So we have a command ARSCN, which is really controlling if I want to dial, if I'm not allowed to dial at all, and in many conditions I can restrict or go for deeper analysis. 80dB and 12 denial. In command ARSCN, I decide in my physical route or my dummy route in RRI 0, 1, 2, 3. There's 4 conditions that I can drill down and say if I require restriction or not. In day mode and in night mode, you can decide if you want to make day and night the same, because most of the enterprise premises is a 24-hour premises, so there's no office hour off. They are working all the time. So you can simplify it by 75 ASYD and set it 0, so it will become common or separate. RRI is the indexes. For example, I want to allow the call, the restriction. It's not only related for outgoing call, it's also related for incoming call. I can allow or restrict the call from incoming or outgoing directly or via the attendant console. I have 4 conditions, 2 for incoming and 2 for outgoing. The 2 for incoming related for directly or via attendant console, and the outgoing again directly or via attendant console. Normally what we really need to drill down is the index which is related for outgoing allowance directly, which is RRI 2. This is the most important RRI. Yeah. Based on my RSC that I assign in ASDT and the ISTL, and I have to go for ASCL command, and there I change my class of service. Here I set for each and every route, I can decide my class. For each and every route, I can decide my class. Is it allowed for this route or not? And here we have 3 options. Either restricted, that means Abdullah is part of route number 1, he is using route number 5 for class number 1, he is allowed or restricted to use this route. That means whatever the routing table he had, he's not allowed to touch this route. Like a boss private route. No one allowed to touch this route except the boss, right? Or maybe I need to do further analysis. You are allowed to make international call in this route or not. The RRI 3, which is direct call, outgoing direct call, is the only one that I can do further analysis. But the other RRIs, like incoming via operator directly or outgoing via the operator, is either on or off. But here you don't have a real control. Here it's a kind of incoming or outgoing call. You have a control or your outgoing directly call. So here you can make an additional drill down in the torque restriction table. And after that you set the restriction of restricted, or it's all the time allowed. If I have a CCIS route, that means back-to-back connection with the Nortus, with the 83 system, I have a QSIG network between me and the Cisco system. Why do I need to do a restriction? I just want to call them. Some people said, yeah, I need a further analysis. But in most of the scenario, in the networking, you don't need an internal restriction. Sometimes you really need it, but
Again, please, Khalid, in case of PRI3, the previous.
Yes.
RI3 mean outgoing restriction directly. I'm allowed or not allowed to have outgoing call from my phone directly without an attendant console support. We have three conditions. Either the call all the time for this route restricted, or it's allowed, or I have to go for additional analysis. This is the concept. And this is only possible if it's my call. But here, if the attendant do, I cannot do control in my call. I can allow or restrict. I cannot drill down what he did for me. Don't forget also what route you already assigned in ARTN. Some people do ARTD and forget ARCN will not work. You have to do ARTDN, ARTN. Otherwise ARCN will not work. And simply the call will not go outside.
Again.
If you forget to assign ARTN
Okay.
and you do ARTDN only, ARCN will not work.
So we have to map.
Yes. That's why it's step number 2. And don't forget for the dummy route, because if the dummy route, which is doing the flexible routing, are not able to do any kind, if it's restricted, how come it will do outgoing digit push to other routes? I make a kind of templates. I have, for example, operator for local COT call, for long distance call, for tie call. They are allowed all the time to make any kind of calls as operator, because the one who really take care about the complete office about the call. All the employee for the local call, they have some restriction in the outgoing call directly, but they are allowed to call internally. But the lobby or the elevator, they are not allowed to make any direct calls because they are only hotlines. They are not allowed to make any calls. This is just an example. I'm sure you can do it in the easier way. For dummy route, set everything is 1. Let's make it simple. ARCN, if it's 0, not allowed. 1, you can simply allow no police checkpoint. ATDB is our first police checkpoint that we have to ask, what I will do if I receive this kind of data. In ATDB, we set for our outgoing call in the day mode, which class of service or restriction class of service are using for this route, I dial this number. The simple rule, if you did ARCN and you said for day mode, for tenant number 1, for route number 1, I want to restrict the outgoing call. 2, I want to do a deep drill down. The simple rule, everything is restricted, right? We make it simple. In ATDB, I set as outgoing call during the daytime for this class of service or restriction class, this outgoing call for this day, is it allowed or not allowed? By default, everything is not allowed. So you have to have your allowance table or what you are allowed to enable. Please be careful. This is not your real dial number. Again, please be careful. This is not your real dial number. Abdullah, not forget it. In your video, will say, you remember that I said, this is not your real dial number. There is a logic behind it. There is some thing that you are using ARMBN and the FRSN and the AMBDM for a reason. And this is the reason. In here, as I said, it's simply restricted. So if I want to make employee are able to dial international numbers, I have just to name it here, that they are able to dial international number. If I want to make a further analysis, I have to select 3. I think we stop use toll denial or 3-6 toll denial. We only use a restriction table, and I think it's fair enough. In the DC field, it's a combination between the ARMBN code that you assign in ARMBN plus the digit after you skip the digit in AOBRN, or you add the digit FBNL numbering. Let's make it simple. If the person dial 9 or 0 as access code and this number and have the following assignment in ARBN and he skipped one digit, what he really dial? He really dialed 9 and then this number. But in ARBN he decided that my access code for this route is completely different. The number which go for DC is 04, which is the ARBN code, plus the leading digit. So, make it simple. If your real access code is 0, put ARBN 0. If your real code, access code for this route is 0 or 9, make it 9. That means your access code is 9 and your digit sent after the skip, it will be the complete number without 9. So you just match the same number. You dial 905 and you skip in AOBR, but in the analysis you have to what's the ARBN? 9, then add 9 plus a digit.
Say it again, please.
Say it again. Simple rule.
Yeah. Try to.
What is the number that we are going to do restriction for it? If you remember, we are talking about ATDBN command. In ATDBN, we're talking about outgoing call
Yes.
from your extension in the daytime
Okay.
for this class of service or this route.
Okay.
What you will dial? What I'm going to drill down? By default, everything is restricted.
Yes.
Everything is not nothing allowed, but I need to do my allowance table. To do my allowance table, what kind of dial I want to add? I want to add ARBN code plus the digit sent after the skip. Simple rule. Your access code for all of your outgoing route is 9,
Okay.
and you really dial 9.
Yes.
So make it simple. 9. You skip it in AOBRN, and you add it here again the analysis table. As simple as that. That means some people did, like example, he already dialed 0 as access code, but he assigned in ARBN 04, which should be the number in ARBN, in ATDBN. It will be 04, because he decided to have ARBN here, 04, not 0. So make it simple. If your access code is 9 or 0, make it 9 or 0. For some scenarios, you need to do it. For some scenarios. Let's say it's kind of advanced networking topologies that you really need to have each and every set of user allowed to this number, and you will just skip the other to this access code, and you restrict everything except this range.
So in this example, it should be 04 plus 927.
Yes, because the rule said ARBN plus the digit after AOBRN. I just make it 2 examples. What if I make it 9? So I delete in OBR 9 and I do it again in the ARBN. And here, the second example, I consider in ARBN 04. What if in AOBRN I skip 1 and use BNN number 1? And in BNN number 1, I add 046. So the number will be 04, 046, then 926, 927. It can be flexible in this side. We don't need this flexibility now. We need it simple. 9, 9. Match your access code for your root number and your real access code.
Why people using 9 or any number to dial out? Why not direct 9?
Because you can imagine, Abdullah, what will happen for the numbering plan if you have thousands and thousands of users over network distributed. And don't forget, in most of the real enterprise, you will not have access for the route outside directly. That means you are
Even you are pressing 9, it is directly
Directly.
accessed.
directly.
Everybody knows 9. So what is
No,
the user?
no. 9, that means you are using access code. If I don't assign access code, what will happen for my numbering plan? How many digits can I use? What will happen to my numbering plan? If I have a your number and Saudi 056, and I allow you to dial this, and you need to assign 0 as an operator, which one will go? Think about thousands of users. If you are talking about a small business, it's very easy. We can do it with 91. You can say any number is not in my system, just dial outside. But this rule is invalid in the kind of enterprise network. You have to decide each and every step. Because single mistake, like myself and yourself connected and Asim connected to us. I make a call forward to you. And you make a call forward to Asim. And Asim make a call forward for me. How many times the loop will go? It's infinite. As simple as that.
So it's not possible in enterprises.
No, it's even not acceptable. If you look for the military guys, they don't accept this kind of simple operation because it's really make their life difficult to do analysis.
And the people now are asking why we are using now, needing directly. So that's why I asked the same question.
For a small business, yes, agree. But enterprise, I don't think so. For the real enterprise network, where the people who ask for redundancy, the people who ask for a lot of digital analysis, you cannot do this also in a small business. We have a very nice example in ADNOC HQ. They already decided to go with Cisco. And they were saying, yes, finally we get rid of all of NEC shit. That's what I hear by myself. And now they said, we could understand why NEC do it after 2 years. They could find that every night they have a kind of storm of and loops that they cannot understand. And the call manager, every 2 months, just simply go down. And they could find that this was because they just route anything outside. And the routes and the SBC cannot control all this traffic, so the call manager goes down. It's also, Abdullah, it's sometimes easy to say, I want to simplify it, but we have to be also realistic. Think about the power of knowledge you have. Clear? It's a little bit tricky, but ARMBN is not a useless number. It's not a useless number. ARMBN should be assigned in ASBN and AMBDN. That means if I don't have 0 assigned in AMBDN, the call will not go out. If I don't have 04 as an ASBN record, again, I cannot go out. It means if I want to manipulate, it should be a realistic manipulation. The simple rule, if you have a problem of restriction, first thing, think about AMBDN, ASBN, ARMBN. Make sure that these 3 commands are flat. Take them for AMNDN. Then come for ATDBN and verify that you are writing the right records. And again, you will make for each and every day and night mode, for each and every class, for each and every route. So you have to be very careful about the records that you go to assign. The complete picture in ARCN 0, not allowed. 1, just go outside. 2, make a further analysis. By default, everything restricted unless we allow it, so it will go outside. An example of ATDBN, I want to allow only the local code.
What was the third one, 0?
It's not used, it's a tool denial battery. It's a very old procedure that you are using in an old TDM system, that you have a box out of the TSW box with only the restriction. It's a kind of trigger circuit that have a timer, but it's not used anymore. All the local codes are allowed. My access code is 0, 02 allowed, 0 or 03, all the access code are allowed. Yeah. For this specific code, for this specific class. So, how many classes I should create? You have to 15. 15. How many classes you have in the system is 15, that's correct. But how many you really need? Since everything is restricted, don't enable everything. Don't say I want to enable the access code for everyone. Allow specifically. The same system make it simple for you. It's all restricted. You enable what you need. I want to allow a very specific list of the local codes, or let's say, not of the local code. I want to allow a list of local area code. I want to allow only this 02, 03, 05, 04. But I don't want to allow 07 as access code. So I simply don't add it. I have some concerns and some practical examples. Abdullah maybe remember that why we use dummy root. Dummy root is used for marking the digit, and one dummy root is enough. If I see in any office backup data from anyone multiple dummy root, because I have an ADNOC and people making for each and every dummy root, and for each and every root, dummy root.
The dummy root and the rear root, they are coming under the one command, I think, LGR.
Is this it?
The LGRT, huh?
Yeah, ARTD.
This is make difference sometimes. LGRT, rear root, and in the document, and they are talking about the rear root or the logical root and the dummy root.
Yeah.
I first understand the rear root and logical root, it's the same.
But in different data memory, right? They are the same, but they are in different data memory. How to connect from these two different data memory? Using ALRTN. LGR is the logical root representation for the physical root.
For the physical, which is coming from the provider, this is
From the card, from the hardware-oriented devices. That's why we say physical or real root. Then you can connect it to a carrier, as you said. You can connect it to another system, that's also correct. You can make a loopback, that's correct. But inside the system, there's a logical representation and a physical version, which needed to be mapped again. This is the step number 2. Tool denial. Tool denial, I just say, outgoing call is restricted from root restriction class to be assigned for this station. And the restriction could not be programmed per tenant. Could not be programmed per tenant. Let's have a look carefully in command DTDB. What is the tenant? I don't have any control tenant base. If I make a restriction, I make it for everyone. If I want to make a separation between tenants, I have to come here for each and every root to create a table for the tenant. And I have to create a set of restriction class for tenant number 1, set of restriction class for tenant number 2. In my system, I can go up to 63 tenants. How many set I can divide? It will be illogical. Especially for the people who have tenant-based solution. Like if you go for Dubai Mall, they could not install a small as a 1000 system for each and every one. It will be expensive, and also it's not easy to manage. So they install 195 as example, and they manage to give everyone user. They give everyone user, and they have a DID transaction from 195. And they would like to have their own control for each and every 36 so they have single 95, so you have to be very careful in the kind of assignment. So it's old idea, we call tool denial or tool diversion, that you can make tool restriction based on a tenant. I'm not a big fan for tenant, by the way, but still, in some way in places you will use it. Let's say you have a BSTR number and tenant 1 is using set of trunks and tenant 2 and tenant 3. And I don't want to restrict my calls based on a LCR table. I want to restrict my call based on a restriction table. But my restriction table don't have any tenant. So first of all, in order to use this, I have to use tenant number and user group number is the same. If you remember in ASDT command, we said tenant number 1 for extension 1000. In ALGSM, we said user group number 1 and extension 1000. These two numbers should not be different if you want to use cell diversion. This feature is overruling the existing restriction, and it's not available for OEI, for BCT extensions, and it's not allowed for hotel. This feature supports on ISDN trunk as well, and the LCR and the LCR is. And this can be dial in tenant base and speed dial base and also tandem base. And if I have to restriction for subline, it will only apply the same rule of my. How to program it? I have to create separate or common development table for the tenant base. I don't depend on a single tenant, and I have to go for command attdb en. attdb EM. It's additional command, a new command. We don't
Yes.
discuss in the
Basic
basic
course.
course. And also, I have to decide also how many tenants I'm really going to use. This is the first step. And if my tenants, I have two tenants, I have to say they are common in the DNI or not. After that, after they are common or separate, I go for command ATDBEN.
Khaled, one question. Regarding to the tenant, we haven't used more than one before, right?
No. And also it's part of the advanced course, how to use tenant, where to use tenant, why to use tenant.
White, okay. So it's normal that we don't understand the full tenant, let's
Let's
say.
You cannot understand the complete usage of tenant unless you have a multiple tenant environment. So in this kind of courses, especially basic course and routing course, we really focus to consider that we are in a simple scenario. Life is easy and we are a single tenant. But in reality, sometimes you really have to go. In military, you cannot call a boss. One have a good heart to call a
Yeah.
boss, but they make it as a rule. You are not allowed to call any boss. They separate the bosses in a separate tenants, in a separate floor, in a separate kitchen.
Here in NEC, the tenant, multi-tenants need license? No license.
No, that's it's the
Configuration.
configuration you decide also how you want to expand. And over FCCS network, each and different node can go with the 63 different tenant, and you can say it's unlimited tenant design also.
Yeah.
Basically, in the basic course, you remember, I told you, no, we are very limited. In this, we have only 63 tenant. In the Northern system, they have no concept of tenant. It's just easy, you can divide the system in multiple nodes. That I can't say in the first course that we have a lot, unless you come to this part. Or also, in the advanced course, you will understand how it's flexible is it. So, we have command ATDBE or ATDBL. We skip this and we do ATDBN only, right?
Okay.
We skip this data memory and we all the time try to do network data memory. Then we have to have ATDBEN. That's the highest priority. If I said 05 is allowed in ATDBN, the system will ask, ATDBEN allowed or not? If he said no, it will not be allowed. The highest priority is based on ATDBEN. I said, in my tenant, number one, I have outgoing call for daytime for this restriction class in
This logic root.
logical root, and I put the number, the same number that I use in ATDB. But here I can go in tenant-based analysis. Is it allowed or restricted? So I can simply say, I am part of tenant 2, you are part of tenant 1. And I said in ATDBEN, if you are allowed or not allowed based on your tenant. It's the same table that we have it in ATDB. But
But
Here.
tenant is as added.
yeah, a tenant is added in ATDBEN.
So,
Now, people said, we can have both. Yes, you can have both.
small question. The tenant here is as the VLANs in networking,
It's even more advanced.
but the concept is
Yes.
the same. Okay.
Because we have, in the old days, we have only tenants. Later we come up with a user group. Later we come up with a point code. Later we come up with a fusion point code. Later we come up with IP syntax. And recently we come with your redundancy. So which one you like?
None.
VLAN is a VLAN. VLAN is a VLAN. But here you can make a deep analysis based on a tenant. When you will use tenant, it's part of the advanced course. But basically, you have this flexibility.
Okay.
You have this flexibility. People said, yeah, I don't like to have a tenant at all in my system. Yeah, if you like, you can stay with it. Most of the military, tenant is a must. There's no choice.
By default restriction is there, or we have to make the restriction between tenants?
Yes. No, it's very good question. It's also part of the advanced course. Tenant by restriction, by default, is restricted to call each other. And even it's allowed to have, not allowed to have a service. And also, you can simplify your tenant to meet the customer requirement, or you can really make it two completely different systems. I can tell you that ASYD can be separated into different systems. That means you can really divide your system to 295, if you like.
With the same license?
With the same license, yes. We have also a kind of additional 12 denial or additional or 12 divergence called ACB, APCR, and ADNBRL. The first one, ABCR, BC, or is really used to look this kind of number. All the time I receive a number from Morocco, and the same guy who tell me that they killed my father and they want $100 to all this silly stories, and I want to block all the numbers from this country. I just say 00, XXX, any number. Just people said, yeah, why you don't tell me this in the basic course? Because it's not the right way to do it, a denial. I don't want you to depend on at condition in the enterprise network. You have to be very specific.